Good evening and welcome to Gunner Shot. Today I'm going to talk about the coming war with China. You'll ask, is the war going to happen tomorrow? No, it's not going to happen tomorrow. Will it happen next year? Might not happen next year. Will it happen in 2 years? Possible. Will it happen in 3 to 4 years? Highly possible. Will it happen after 5, 6 years? Question mark. Why? And what is this war going to look like? And when will it happen? And how will it happen? And under what conditions it's happen? This is the issue which we have to actually consider when we're talking of a war with China. But why did I choose this subject today? I chose this subject because there is a lot of talk in the air that our relations with China are improving. The external affairs minister, who till a month back was talking of that we have very difficult issues with China, suddenly says 75% of the problems are solved. The finance minister says we need investment. In fact, the economic advisor says we need investment from China. And it is backed by the finance minister during the budget session. And generally, articles are coming up all over from China which suggest issues with India are over. And India has learned a lesson, and we're going to be. It's something which I really can't understand. And is the border being relegated to a corner? Possible. Will it affect our growth? Border being relegated to corner? 50-50. You can have divided opinion on it. But your territorial integrity and sovereignty is at stake. Now, is the hope that having better economic ties with China will avoid war? I think that's foolish. For the simple reason, China doesn't respect that sentiment. We had very good economic relations with China in 2020. Yet they came in at Eastern Ladakh. Right? Will you get into an agreement with them as you improve your economic ties improve to safeguard your territorial integrity? It's a useless thing. This thought itself is useless for the simple reason that no agreement with China will be respected. That's the history. They have never respected any agreement with anyone, including the UN. Remember that 9-dash line now has turned into 10-dash line, and they've taken over entire South China Sea, and there's a problem on there. So whatever you do with China, it doesn't matter. The war is coming. Right? That's the point which prompted me to think over and analyze this issue in depth. And I came out with this video. Now, why do I call it it's India's grey rhino? And I'll explain to you as we go along what this means. Right? Okay. Now, last year, somewhere in May, I did this video called, I made this video, in fact. I streamed it. It was based on 4 earlier videos I had done with General Vinod Bhatia, General Rajiv Narayanan, General Narasimhan, and General Raj Shukla. And a few days back, I reviewed that video, and today morning, I've released it as a video again. And the link to this video is there in the description of this video, which I'm doing now. Now, what is the sum total of this whole story? And that's where I start from. I remember General Narasimhan telling me very clearly He says, few years back, if you had said, uh, what is a defining problem between India and China? It's the border problem. He says, now I'm not sure anymore because things have moved beyond the border. And then I remember this discussion with Raj Shukla, where we said, look, there can only be one tiger on the hill. That's the Chinese conception. We also discussed how, with General Vinod Bhatia, as to how China was pushing us into a border settlement to their advantage. And with General Rajiv Narayanan, we said how China could be a real danger for us overall, notwithstanding the problem that it was going down. And the fact that it was going down was well known even then to all of us. I would suggest you watch this. A lot of people have seen it already. I thought I'll issue this out, I'll put this out as a precursor to what we are going to do now. With this as a base, let me get ahead. What is a grey rhino? Look, a grey rhino event, as opposed to a black swan event, a black swan event is something which you can't foresee. It happens and you can't predict it, it just happens. But a grey rhino event is something which is predictable, it is highly probable. And if it happens, the impact will be huge. And yet, most of us ignore this risk. That is why I'm putting it out. It appears that the government of India and the government and all our politicians are ignoring this risk. And this risk, by the day, in my opinion, is increasing. War with China is a matter of if, it's not, rather, war with China is no more a matter of if, it is a matter of when and where. It's not even if and why. I'm very confident of it. Are we aware of this? I don't know whether people must be aware, but I don't know whether they see it the way I see it. Okay, so let me go through the paces, right? This is not a flashy video. This is not something which I'm going to give something from earth, God's own voice. I'm not going to say. I'm going to put you through a logic. The logic of why war between India and China is inevitable. And from there, we will see what to do. Or rather, recently I attended the Chanakya Defense Dialogues, the curtain raiser, in which the chief and Palki Sharma had a great conversation. In that, two things came out. First, the LAC is stable but sensitive. And there's an immense lack of trust on the LAC. If there's immense lack of trust on the LAC, can there be trust anywhere else? If there is no trust anywhere else, why are we trusting China to get into to new economic deals with them? Investment. If we are doing it, are we doing it with due precautions? Because we already know that many Chinese companies in India have defrauded us here. And we've had to close them up, raid them, everything. Are we taking precautions to ensure that doesn't happen? Because there's nothing very clearly in the public domain. If today, if you see the TV, it's all about Haryana elections and J&K elections. They are important for us. Yesterday it was Israel. Day before yesterday it was Ukraine. But are we discussing what we are doing for the safety, security, integrity, and progress of our nation? That's the point. Lack of trust. And when my chief of army staff says there's lack of trust, I believe him. I believe even his predecessor, who did say this 2 years back, and things have not changed. So why are we trusting China with great investments here? Now let me analyze China. There are many views about China. Some say it's going down. I am one of them. Some say it's no, it's still rising. But let me view it dispassionately, completely dispassionately. First and foremost, there was a great stimulus given. Till last week it was given. Till yesterday, everything was hunky dory. Chinese stocks were going, soaring. Money was flowing away from India into China, and a lot of people asked me this. So I said, just wait. Today, the Hang Seng has gone down because following that stimulus, their National Development Bureau chief, whoever he is, he came out and gave a press conference. After that press conference, Hang Seng went down. People are not convinced about the stimulus and whatever China is doing. Because what they're doing is to remain in power, to ensure that the CCP remains in power and not for the people of China. So why am I talking of this? I'm talking of this because of this heading. China is in an uncertainty zone. We have to understand China is massively overstressed, whether it's economically or geopolitically. It's invested into people, countries like Pakistan, where nothing is coming out from them. We know the Karachi incident which happened. It's a matter of time that more will happen in Pakistan. But yet, it wants to remake the global order. It wants to establish its own spheres of influence, whether it's in Latin America, Africa, or Asia. It's expanding its BRI and propagating its GSI and GDI and GCI, that is security development and civilizational institutes. We know it's completely, it has this checkbook diplomacy, debt trap diplomacy, wolf warriorism. We've all seen this, and these have generated geopolitical tensions. You've seen what's happened in Maldives and Sri Lanka, recent past. 6 months back, we were saying Maldives is bailout. Sorry, India out. Today, they say we need a bailout. And I'm going to do a video on this on the weekend. You see Sri Lanka. Everyone thought that a communist leader coming there, like Anurag Dassanayake, means that it will swing to China. He's not going. In both these cases, China has not helped them out. But does it give me solace? It doesn't give me solace. For the simple reason, China will wait for a time to trap both these nations, and with that, us also. And that is when the danger starts. Today, China is trying to dump its steel, EV, solar systems, batteries into the international market. No one wants it. There's international protectionism, whether it's in EU or even in Turkey or in Malaysia or in India or in USA. So there are tensions because of that. Their demographic decline is irreversible. It's established. Their internal problems are huge still. Lack of consumption, joblessness, falling wages, indebtedness, their debt bubble. People in China are in huge debt. Their local governments are in debt. Their banking system is in debt. How it's running, I don't know. Look at the PLA. It's got poor leadership. It's got inexperience. It's got corruption. It's got dodgy equipment. There's a huge purge going on. And there's a big disconnect between the political and the military leadership. Now, Xi Jinping himself has problems. He's not able to control the party. Last month, we spoke whether he's been purged or not himself. And ever since come back on the thing, he's trying to change tack. We don't know whether he's fully in control of the party or not, whether it's a health problem or not, but there is disquiet in China. Notwithstanding all this, Xi Jinping still wants to become China's tallest leader and lead China into a Sino-centric world. Look at his personality. I mean, it's important because he's the man who's going to take China to war. Like I said, he wants to be the tallest leader in China and take China into a Sino-centric world. He's a man of deep conviction. And the conviction is so deep and his beliefs are so deep that he's as dangerous as Mao or Stalin or Hitler. He's got a vision, and that vision that is that China replaces USA. One. Two, that the Communist Party of China should rule over China eternally, and communism must be universal. Now, these are megalomaniac ambitions. Now, to achieve these, internally, he's ruthlessly eliminated all opposition. His treatment of Uyghurs and Tibetans is well chronicled. His attitude towards other countries is also well chronicled. Have a look at that video which I said and see what General Bhatia had to say of that time. The way he dealt with Mr. Manmohan Singh. But we also know that Xi Jinping is intellectually limited. He's stubborn. And he's presiding over a China who is declining. I don't believe this stimulus will work. It might work for a month, 2 months, 3 months. But the basic message of Xi Jinping and the CCP is not to put money in the hands of people. The moment money goes into the hands of the people, people will become independent of the party. If you've not understood this whole setup, let me put it. If you see China, the party has thrived at the expense of the people. If consumption starts, the party will wither at the expense of the people. Or to fund the people. Let me put it that way. So the people will thrive at the expense of the party. That's not what Xi Jinping wants. Now, like I said, China's rise, its military build-up, and its prospects to displace USA from its primacy are well documented. Their ambition is well known, I've said so. This rise and the challenge to USA has generated a lot of war theories. How, when, and why China and USA will go to war. There are dates 2027, 2029, 2047. All kinds of dates have come out. Some generated by China and some inferred and generated largely from USA. But there's a issue in this. You have to understand. Now, all these theories, war theories which came out, were based on a China which was rising, rapidly expanding. A China which was dissatisfied with the existing order and had the muscle and the strength economically and militarily and had the determination to change the existing world order and if necessary by military force. So when you say that, then it involved a war with USA and China. a rising China. But that's over. That's gone. Today, China is in a drastic slowdown. You take any economic guru or an economic idiot like me, he will say there's a drastic slowdown in China, which means it's a peaking power or a declining power. Now, it's not that only ascending powers go to war, even declining powers go to war. And hence, China could resort to military adventurism. Why? To restart its stalled economic growth. People have gone to war for their fortunes. That's how the colonial legacies. All the West has become rich at the expense of the rest of the world in the process of mercantilism and colonialism. So, if we think that China will not resort to armed mercantilism, then we are living in a fool's paradise. So, the story is about armed mercantilism. China also knows its moment on the sun has passed. Xi Jinping will not be able to rejuvenate the great Chinese nation or live up to the social contract. You give me my freedom, I'll give you prosperity. That's going off. Right? That's going off. And now there's an author called Michael Beckley. He's written a paper called The Peril of Peaking Powers, where he says over a 150-year period, peaking powers, which means powers which were rising but have slowed or stopped or declining, have been the most dangerous country from a war perspective, from military perspective. And it's right. When you look at all the colonial expeditions which went out, they went out even when when the Spanish fleet went to USA. Because at the time when the Spanish reign didn't have money, Isabella didn't have money when she commissioned Columbus to go find a new route to the Indies, that is India. Mercantilism. Now, as China's window of opportunity closes, the chances of its going to war to revive its economy through mercantilism have increased. And in fact, I think slowly they're heading to a path where they have no other choice. Last year, they laid claim to vast swathes of territory, complete Eastern Ladakh, Arunachal, a new 10 line, which included Taiwan, some parts of Japan, even some parts of Russia along the Usuri River. Now, the question is, can China go to war with anyone to annex its claims? These are the claims. So let's look at that. So if it has to annex these claims, it has to go to war at these places which I've shown on the map. Let me highlight this map a little more. Yeah, these are the 4 places. It can go to Eastern Ladakh. It, of course, can go to Arunachal Pradesh to retake it. South China Sea, it's already in a conflict out there. Taiwan, everyone knows, and the Diaoyu Islands. And this is what we all talk of day in and day out. So, if it has to retake those, so it means war, any of these places. But the question is, why will it go to war? That's the point. There's this lady, Yun Sun. She wrote an article in War on the Rock. She's a Chinese. She's in Stimson Center. I remember reading her this, what I'm going to now talk of, 2 years back. And this thing came out. I'm digressing a bit, but it explains the point. Now, if China goes to war, her theory is China's strategic goal will be to avoid a two-front war with United States and India. They doesn't want to get into a two-front war because China knows that India and USA in a two-front war will crush it. And she says, for China, the prospect of facing the American military at sea and the Indian military along its southern border and in the Indian Ocean also, is real and dangerous with increasing defense cooperation between USA and India. Is the issue. It damages the security and stability of China's western borderlands and undermines China's strategic influence in South Asia. Period. They have a problem, and she defines the problem well. India. It will also hinder China's power projection capability in the Indian Ocean, with the potential to threaten China's energy supply from the Middle East. So it has to avoid a two-front war, but it has to go to war with any of these, one of these. To achieve this, to achieve its power projection, ensure that oil lines are kept open, Tibet and Xinjiang stable, and China sees the danger of this whole story because there are issues coming up in Tibet, and I'll talk of it down the line. And because that's my next major research I'm doing as to what India needs to do in Tibet. Apart from what Tibet itself or the Tibetans themselves have to do about themselves. Okay. So many people don't understand this two-front war business. That's why I brought this out from Nikki Asia. Sometime back it came. India presents China a two-front problem, which US Navy chief suggested. If you go back to any of my videos, which I did during Eastern Ladakh time, mostly with Adi in defense talks or with Sri Iyer in P Gurus or Sanjay Dixit in Jaipur dialogues, I kept giving this thing that China is in a two-front situation. Then, but now people have started talking of it in real terms. Deraya, Drustaya. But I had no doubts ever. Now, this report is interesting. Now, US Typhon missile system in Philippines has China facing more tense security situation. Let me explain this a little further. Okay, this report, if you read in this thing, this is it. Where I put that star is where China has put the Typhon system. What is the Typhon system? It's just a launcher from which you can launch cruise missiles, Tomahawk, AWO, all that. And those Tomahawks have this range. Virtually, the complete East Coast is covered. And these Tomahawk missiles are the ones USA has been using consistently, battle-proven systems, cruise missiles. Very good. Terrain huggers. You can't detect them. And China doesn't have this capability. It probably might not have the capability to be against them. So on one side, it can go up to Vietnam. Why I showed it to Vietnam is because it will cover the complete South China Sea. And why I showed to the north is it can probably go up to Beijing also. And Taiwan, all those areas. So this upsets the balance. Now it's still there. These Typhon systems is still there in Luzon because 4 months back the American, Australian, and the Philippines military did an exercise there, and they left those weapons there. And now they've started doing patrols also out there. So South China Sea is slowly being denied to China. It's getting entangled out there. Here, the Typhon system stationed at Luzon, equipped with cruise missile, can strike targets in South China Sea, mainland, and Taiwan Strait. Now, Quad is expanding to the South China Sea. It's a joint patrol which is going to be done to uphold the free and open Indo-Pacific. Which means, which I spoke, General Rajiv Narayanan and I spoke about this in the last episode, that they're going to go there and carry out patrols and constrict China. China will not have the freedom of movement there. Okay. Now there's a professor, Shi Xinbong, or whatever his name is. He's from Beijing's Renmin University. He says China could face a serious threat with the Typhon missile system in place, given that its own missile defense systems still need improvement, which means that they don't have that great defense. This comes from them. I'm not saying this. So there's an issue with their defensive system. And they acknowledge they have a problem with their defensive system. And here is an offensive system which comes in place. It closes a lot of options for China there. And that is what I'm trying to put across. Okay. Agar, look at this. Main, everyone says South China Sea, Taiwan, Philippines, Diaoyu Islands. And that is where all this action is taking place. And their options are getting closed. And over and above that, Japan plans to deploy medium to long range land based US weapon systems. So, what is left? Where will it go? India. Am I wrong in my thinking? Let's look at another facet of this whole story. When will China go to war? China, everything in China is political. I keep repeating this. If you don't view it through a political lens, you're out of the game. China will go to war only with well-defined political objectives, and that too when they can be achieved. If that doesn't happen, China will not go to war. In this case, the way China is, I told you about a peaking power, everything, revival of its fortunes, and achieving global ambitions, because those have not gone out of Xi Jinping's head, are its political goal. It is trying it. Can this be achieved militarily? Yes, it can be achieved militarily. It can achieve it by defeating USA. But then, like I said, the US military is not a pushover. It's very formidable. And it might be beyond the scope of PLA to take it on. There's another thing. There's a RAND study. It says a US-China war could lead to a 10% decline in US GDP and 35% decline in Chinese GDP. Will China do the foolishness of getting involved with USA? And it may spill into the nuclear realm. And both nations will face a catastrophe. In my view, this is beyond Xi Jinping's risk appetite. He will not attempt it. In fact, I virtually rule it out. Okay. So Xi Jinping and China will think 2 to 3 times, maybe 20 times before entering to war with either USA or a treaty or an alliance partner with USA. Why alliance partner or a treaty partner? The moment it's a treaty or an alliance partner, if China goes and attacks Philippines or Taiwan or Japan, USA is bound to react as per treaty. So China might make aggressive moves against Taiwan and Japan and South Korea and Philippines and other country, but it will not cross that red line again, where it gets USA in. If that doesn't happen, its political goal will not be achieved. If the political goal is not achieved, China will not go to war. Please understand this fine thing. People will say they'll go here, they'll go there. Now, like I said, it has to revive its economy and then go, global ambition. That's the political goal. Only that will make Xi Jinping, the biggest man in Chinese history. So it has to be a mercantilist war, and that mercantilist war must revive China's economy. It must give him a diplomatic and reputational benefit. कि भाई चाइना सबसे बड़ा है. Diplomatically, it should give him hype. If Xi Jinping and China tangle with USA, just the opposite will happen. I mean, isn't it? Isn't it very logical? Why? Everything is economic revival. Mercantilism is economy. No, USA is a major consumer of China's manufacturing output. Now, if you go and trouble USA, he'll stop as it is. They're stopping. उसे war हो जाएगा. 10% GDP goes down. They'll stop buying things from China, and China will go down even further. And riling USA means crippling sanctions also, like what's happened with Russia. And China is dependent on Western market. So it will be, this whole story about China war with the USA. These are all fancy thinking, completely retrograde to China's larger objectives. I mean, people have to understand this. Very, very. I have always said so. There will be no war. That's why so far in Gunner Shot, I have not even analyzed what's happening in Taiwan and South China Sea beyond a point. It might happen. It might happen that USA traps China in a war. That's a different thing altogether. That's happening. I'll analyze it from that point of view, but not from China being proactive. Okay, let's consider this question. Why will China ever think of a war with India seriously? There are many logic. Let me look at the logic. China, I told you, there's only one tiger in Asia. That's the Chinese thinking. One tiger on a hill. And China and India are competing over overlapping strategic spaces, whether it's in the Indian Ocean or in Vietnam. Our Prime Minister is now going to Laos and Vientiane. And Laos is China का गढ़ है. आप जा रहे हो उधर. Strategic contest. Xi Jinping comes to Bangladesh, Afghanistan. These are all, we are contesting overlapping strategic spaces. Now, if you marginalize India, it will leave many countries with no room to hedge. It's not only regional, but even global. For example, in the East, Middle East. If you take out India out of the equation, then and the Middle East countries will have to then necessarily turn to China. Same thing goes for Africa. Which means it facilitates China's expansion not only into the Indian subcontinent, Indian Ocean region, but beyond. In Africa, you're competing with them. We have to be very clear. We also have to be clear, and they are clear. The Chinese are clear that India's growth is at China's expense. And your growth rate has surpassed China's, and it needs to be curbed. I spoke day before yesterday of momentum. India has the momentum, mass into velocity. Mass is your economy, velocity is your rate of growth. You do this mass and momentum bit, you will realize that there's not much to choose from. Mind you, this is not my view, this is a view from there. And the time when India and China can grow together and all is over. They talk, but it's over. They know it. You read their writings, that's what comes out. And I presented those writings as part of the border viewpoint, how China's perception of India's border. I did this some time back. Okay. If China defeats India militarily, it will be a big blow to India's ambitions and global prestige. It also signals USA, Asian countries, global South, Africa, Latin America, Europe, everyone, that China is now a global power. After all, you say that we are a rising power. We want to go join the UN Security Council as a veto member. All that we have said, isn't it? We have said. Our external minister, affairs minister, has gone and told that UN is a system made by our grandfathers and meant for our grandchildren. It's not compatible. You have to change. And part of that change is India being on the high table. If tomorrow you get defeated, you will go into the low table. And that's what happened in 1962. We lost Nepal after 1962. It was only after 1962 that Nepal realized that India is not as powerful as they felt. And then they started going towards China. And that reputational benefit is huge. And it has lasted us from 62 till now. हम क्यों इसको दाव पे लगा रहे हैं यार? I don't know if the government has thought of it this way. I hope they do. I hope they say this video. I'm not against my government. चेतावनी दे रहा हूं मैं. It all right. And if that happens, a military defeat of India happens, it will force the West to take China more seriously. It will open up India's markets as part of post-war settlement. देखो अभी 4 साल के बाद they've come and sat on Demchok and Depsang. You're not resolved it. You still lost territory whether you like it or not, and now you want to go into some kind of a settlement with them and start investing. If tomorrow they do something more, then what happens? And they will do it, because with whatever we do, with whatever caution, everything, even this government will not go beyond a point. But you will get compromised in this whole thing for that you can't do something tomorrow. The compromise is the problem with this whole story. It's not that I don't want Chinese investment, but are you doing a compromise of your sovereignty? This is the question I'm asking. And look at the last point I put. China will convince itself of being victorious because it believes that it has had an edge in the past military encounters. So it's got a psych that, look, India is a softer target. If I have to choose, if China has to choose between tangling with USA and India, if I were a Chinese, I'll say let's go to India. Because India is the more malleable and softer target, where I have been victorious against them. and I can push them. I tried it at Doklam. I didn't succeed fully, but I found the way in Eastern Ladakh. Now they have bent down. I will do more because just by doing this, India doesn't get defeated so far, but the danger is ahead. So, what is the most likely option available to China? That's the next question. Will it be a full war? But there's a big impediment called the Indian military. It is huge, tough experience. It cannot be defeated. The Indian military cannot be defeated outright. We should be very clear. Okay. China will have to commit huge forces, large forces to defeat India militarily. If it does that, it will leave the Eastern Front open to USA. And that is something China can't afford. Okay. Any war against India means it has to have a secure eastern flank. So, what is China's best bet? It can't defeat USA. It can't defeat India outright. So, what does it do? It will undertake a short, sharp, strategically significant, and limited military operation. So, this operation has to be surgical. It undertakes an operation, gains an advantage, pulls back, stabilizes. Can it do so? It's got tremendous opportunities and space along our LAC, Indian Ocean region. Remember, this whole story need not happen across the LAC. It can happen anywhere. And then it will drag us into a well publicized and prolonged negotiation from a position of advantage. Haven't we seen it for the past 24 years? If we have not understood China till now, we are fools. This is a playbook which is happening in front of my eyes, and I must put it across to all of you. If it does that, China achieves its political goals. Like I said, it can be done on the LAC, it can be done in the IOR. Where maybe if there's one little ship which comes into Hambantota or goes to Maldives, the whole India is jumping up and down. Isn't it so? What happens if they take a small piece of ground along the LAC? What do? Panic? That's the way it will do. So when will China do this? China will do it when it senses that India is politically weak, internally disturbed, and its relations with USA are fraught. Three things: internally politically weak, disturbed internally, relations with USA are fraught. Aren't we heading into that time when our relations with USA are fraught? Last year, when our Prime Minister went, it was all red carpet. After that, a lot of issues have come. There are issues related to religious beliefs in India. There are issues for our national security advisor. If he goes there, he could get arrested. Panoon case, all this nonsense. So our relations with USA are not as strong as it was last year. They are getting fraught and going down. We don't know the outcome of this election. Depending on the outcome of this election, things might go even worse. If the Ukraine-Russia war goes awry, we'll be in a bigger mess with USA. That's one condition which China is looking forward to. Politically weak. Our government is not as politically strong as it used to be earlier. Let's be very clear. We are fortunate that we have a strong government, but is it as strong as it was, say, last year before the Lok Sabha elections? No. We have internal issues. And if there's some internal disturbance which comes up, and Kashmir is today, the elections results are out. And let's be very clear, Kashmir is not settled. We're going to see problems ahead. Tomorrow we're going to discuss this issue. We don't know which direction Kashmir will go into. So if any of these three conditions are met, China will be ready for it. It's waiting. I mean, this is my assessment. Like that's what I written. If the coalition government weakens for any reason, and USA continues to score a self goal like it did in Bangladesh, then the pickings for China are ripe. But then let me be very clear about this. The window of opportunity for China is also limited. It has to do it very fast and in that time frame. And there's a, at this point of time, I don't think China is also ready for a war because it has to overcome its own internal thing. Let's look at this whole story 1 year from now, where China, I presume, would have recovered into some stability. But situation in China is not very good. So it has to externalize. It has to do the Peaking Power Act. So it decides next year. The window really opens up next year. But India is growing. India is growing strong, and China is weakening. The gap is reducing. So as that gap reduces, the window of opportunity also closes. So China has to do it in that time frame. Understand this. A rising India, a peaking China, gap closing, the window is small. And if the demographic problems become bigger than what China is projecting, then the the window is closed. So all this means that 2025 to maybe 2030, after that, my assessment, 5 years, we are entering a danger zone. Like I said, as India grows, it will become too strong for China. Your economy grows to $6-7 trillion. Thank you. China can never think of attacking. After all, you're a nuclear power. Outright war with China is out. It's that small, limited war for which there is adequate space despite being nuclear powers. I think the higher end is what happened in the Kargil war, and the lower end is what happened in the Eastern Ladakh face-off. Between this, a lot of things can happen on the LAC. Like I said, as time passes, the social fallout of China's demographic decline will be tangible and it will impinge on their military capability. So, the declining internal social, economic, political conditions in China, if you factor it in, and if their rate of decline is faster than expected, China might be tempted to take the military plunge earlier. So, in my view, next year onwards. So what does India do? India must anticipate all this and prepare. It needs to strengthen its military at a greater pace. The current under 2% of our GDP allocation for defense is suboptimal. You need to be prepared to exercise. Look, the army chief, the navy chief, and the air force chief might say, "Oh, we will do everything and all." They're supposed to say that. They're in chair. They can't say anything else. But those of us who are finished can give good advice, some sane advice कि भैया पैसा खर्च कर लो फौज के ऊपर, नहीं तो अब मारे जाओगे. So India must prepare and anticipate, strengthen its military at a greater pace, prepare to exercise a pro quid quo, and create an adverse situation for China, wherever. Whether you want to do it along the LAC or in IOR. If that chap does something, you must do something. The biggest mistake we did in Eastern Ladakh was we didn't have this pro quid quo. Take a lesson from Ukraine. What has Ukraine done? It has taken that Kursk still little into Kursk, pro quid quo. It has taken the battle into the Chinese, into the Russian territory. Similarly, we need to take the battle into the Tibetan territory, or maybe down a ship in Indian Ocean region, whatever. And then we should never count the Pakistanis out. That will be the biggest cardinal mistake we'll do. And we need to prepare for escalation. Remember this. Escalation means civil military fusion, politico military fusion. We don't know. I'm not talking of a future 20 years hence. Largely, this fight will be with what we have and little more incremental capability. But your whatever capability you have will force multiply if there is politico military fusion. And we need to develop our ties with USA. Let's be very frank. I don't trust the USA, but he's your best bet. So that you forestall any move by the Chinese. I mean, look, India is doing a lot. We are doing this Malabar exercise. It's a big message. It's not funny. You're doing joint patrolling in South China Sea. It's not funny. It's not simple. China is aware of all this. You're doing anti-piracy operations in the Western Arabian Sea, where USA is keeping the Red Sea channel open. You're doing joint operations there. Otherwise, also you're doing a lot of ground operations, Air Force exercises and all. China knows all that. I'm not saying it won't, but you need to do more. You need to do more politically. Ultimately, remember the fight with China is a political fight. And there's a requirement for USA also to learn that if India falls, USA's position as a global leader will get eroded. And if India falls, for whatever reason, China will get out of the two-front trap. And this aspect is missing from US writings. All those people, those great guys, seem to be writing more about China, more about the Pacific, more about this thing to support the military industrial complex rather than seeing what the real story is. In fact, I tried to write this thing in one of those magazines in USA, and they will not take us. That's why I said US military writings are besotted with scenarios in Taiwan and Western Pacific as if war will happen only there. But real war is happening in the Middle East. And if it happens here, this is the biggest thing knock for USA. What will I finally say? Fear and prepare for a militarily weak China and economically weak China, governed by an aging dictator who seeks glory. And India must prepare for this grey rhino event. This is going to happen. If it doesn't happen, very good. But what if it happens? Am I talking out of the complete blue? I don't think so. If anyone feels that I'm talking nonsense, I'll take it on. Right? So, yeah, let me take a few questions. And I see a lot of questions. Let me attempt to. Right. But before I start all this, I must thank all of you for attending this webinar, or rather this talk. If you like what I've spoken, please press the like button and subscribe to Gunner Shot if you have not done. And all members, I would request you to subscribe fully and ensure your notification is on, because I'll be now putting out a few videos for members only before I release it to public, so that you get it in time. And if you're not press that notification on, you will not get that thing before. And I'd request more of you to join as members, because, like I said, members contribute to a noble cause. I can't give you anything special except say take your questions and give you videos in advance. But more importantly, I'm doing it for a noble cause. Okay. The first question is Pakistan a Hezbollah and Hamas for India, whereas China has the role of Iran. Interesting thought process. I never thought of it that way. Compliment your victimhood, but I don't think so fully. Okay. Do we have the capability of fighting a long duration war with China spanning into years, keeping Ukraine-Russia confrontation and the West Asian conflagration as benchmarks? Your views. It's not a matter of capability of fighting, Akash. It's a matter of will that happen. Two nations like us cannot, this scenario is out of the window. In any case, we are in a low confrontation with them for years. But a high intensity campaign will not happen. Because neither has the capability to prosecute a war of this magnitude. It will be a sharp contest. How soon can we anticipate the war? Will nuclear weapons be utilized in this war? Will civilian targets also be the radar of nuclear missiles? No. And like I told you, this will not be a general war of the 62 variety, where you've been attacked from Wolong, you've been attacked in Arunachal Pradesh, you've been attacked in the east and somewhere in the center also. No, that will not happen. That even China can't afford to do. We'll stop them. Nuclear war and all, very difficult to think. I don't imagine it. This is a short war to force you, put you in a bad shape. Look, if I magnify the Eastern Ladakh scenario by 10, that's it. What can we do all? What can you all do for helping the nation? Yeah, make a noise with your MP, with your near society. Let this word go up that what you're doing with China has to be dealt a little more intelligently. People in power have different views, but I have a different view. This is a democracy. I'm expressing it. And if you're convinced with what I've said, let's spread the word. Yeah, the best way to hurt him is economically, yet economic survey and even Sanjeev Sanyal are encouraging Chinese FDI. Recently, I saw Lord Krishna and Ganesh idols that were made in China. Are we doomed? If we don't take, look, this effort of mine is only because of this. I don't trust people like Sanjeev Sanyal to visualize what I've said. He's an economist, that's about all. He's looking at money. What is his understanding of military? What is his understanding of something beyond that? He's very intelligent, I have no doubt. But I question that. It is my right to question him. And I'm open for a debate. I'll take only one question from each person. So, Akash, be. US and China, along with Russia, have aggressive nuclear doctrine, unlike us, which is a deterrent to first preemptive strike. Unlike need aggressive. I've spoken of it day before yesterday. Have a look at it. How to the need to change our nuclear doctrine. Okay. Good evening, 72. Yeah. Isn't this prolonged deployment LAC itself self-defeating? No, it's not. You don't have a choice. It's not like he has a 2-year deployment to make troops hardy and he has conscripts anyway. So what's the point if he'll not go back? He has to come forward. That's what I'm trying to put across to you people. Today he will not go to Taiwan. He is the only way route forward for him is India, and if we don't understand this, we are fools. Is perception of weak PLA strategy and tactics or Achilles heels considering that Pak army has been trained? No, it's not. Don't worry about it. We are pretty balanced on it. What is the outcome of one child policy today in 2024? Are we working on exoskeletons? We'll not talk of all this. Let's talk of the main issue. Uh, Partha, I'm not. I will take off this. You asked this question. Exoskeletons and all are fake. They'll not work beyond a point. I am waiting for your analysis on Iran's earthquake. Oh, look, I have this analysis ready. I I want to do it with Shreya. He's not come back. I told him we'll do it today, but he didn't come back. So I don't know when to do it. Maybe tomorrow or day after I'll put it out. But I'll put it out. It's interesting. Sir, your first questions is absolutely outstanding. I thanks a lot. Uh, have you watched Neeraj Bali podcast? I don't have time to watch Neeraj. Neeraj was my one of my officers. He was under me. I was his commander. So I know Neeraj well. We did staff college together, good friends. He's good. Got a lot of brains. Ajit, I don't like these things. To say Congress is a Muslim party and all that. Whatever they are, they are. If you have a political view, please put it somewhere else. Don't come here and talk like this. I don't like it. Right? And there's an open thing to everyone. If you have to come make disparaging remarks about political parties in India, I'll kick you out of the program. Okay? I respect political parties for the fact that they are part of our democracy. We need to respect them. You might not vote for them, you might have any views about them. So I'm not. Okay. I agree with your analysis on India versus China. War is inevitable. My question is, what should be China's objective? I've told you, right? Do you also agree China is dominant in escalation metric with India? Yes, that's the point. They will be dominant in escalation metrics in this war scenario because the initiative will be with them. And we have to be ready, anticipate for that now. We need to war game it now. And the political objective, I've said very clearly, it's not to gain territory, it's not to gain, that is over. It is all about power projection, it is all about global rise, it is all about displacing India, putting India in its place. That's what I invoked in the beginning. What General Narasimhan said. The issues between India and China are now beyond the LAC. The LAC is just the tool through which China will achieve its objectives. Sir, a clip of the army chief from Chanakya Defense Dialogue went viral on social media in Israel when he spoke about the pager attack. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Uh, I'll take only one question from each person. Yeah. Does China have defense manufacturing capabilities of really good export? No, not much. That I've spoken of separately. We'll not talk of it. Yeah. So what is Mingwu says, actually there will be only one war in the coming years. Actually, I mean all the conflicts between China, Japan, Taiwan, and Philippines are clashes between China and USA. That's why it will not happen. Very nice and informative. Thank you. Uh, so why only two front? Why not multiple front Japan? It will not happen. They'll not get the time to react. This is going to be a short, sharp war. It might last 5 days, 10 days, 20 days, but the aftermath will be long. It's not going to be that they will get involved. And don't expect Japan, Taiwan, and all to get involved. That's why I said your relationship with USA is very important to forestall this whole story. Yeah. Right now, US doesn't have any carrier group in South China Sea. Right now, also DF-41 has the fastest and most advanced hypersonic missiles. These are all tactical issues. Don't worry about it. India is also steadily increasing options to project power in China with MIRV subs carriers. Are these not enough to prevent China from seriously considering a war with India? Look at it this way: all this and more US has in the Western Pacific, but still that doesn't stop people from war gaming. You had all this in 2020 also. It still didn't stop China from doing what it did in Eastern Ladakh. Like I said, it's a matter of opportunity. When India is politically weak and things like that, that's when these will start. Understand that. It's a matter of opportunity and timing. You have to think politically with China, not militarily. The military thing is an outcome of the political process. Yeah, AI Merchant, thanks a lot for becoming a member. Welcome. Uh, yeah, militarily, India has always been good. It's only at the negotiation table that the politicians lose. Do you think the current political leadership will also do the same when the time comes? That's my worry. That's my worry. From a position, they've changed their position without logic. Without logic, which appeals to me. They might have their own logic. The question which I want to ask our political leadership: are you becoming more Nehruvian than Nehru? This is a very loaded question. Is my government becoming more Nehruvian than Nehru was? Let someone answer, and I argue with them. Okay. Yeah, then let me see. So, are we adopting a real estate model similar to China with our rap? No, we'll not talk of all that today. We'll not talk of that. We'll talk of what Raj Shukla has different views. He's welcome to what he has. This is my view. That's it. Yeah, India doesn't have the capability to fight China by weapons, by buying weapons from shopping malls. No, I don't. That's an unkind thing. I don't agree with your view. Yeah. So now, how capturing mountains of Arunachal Pradesh or Ladakh will revive their economy and even reputation? Don't they bark about capturing Taiwan all day? Yeah, they don't. But look at what's happened in Eastern Ladakh. Whatever they've done for Eastern Ladakh for 4 years, they kept pushing you toward. Now, finally, you're opening up your investment. If they do one more thing like that and capture a piece of thing, then again push you into thing. That's what I said. See the mechanics of doing this whole story. There's one copybook style already available with you by, and that's a major message to everyone else. It is not only with you. It is to Malaysia, it is to Indonesia, it is to Borneo, it is to Philippines, it is to all these other chutput nations around कि भैया देखो ये देखो इंडिया को सॉर्ट आउट कर दिया तेरे को भी सॉर्ट आउट करेंगे तो मेरे साथ ट्रेड कर. That is the thinking. You should think beyond just India, China. The fight might be between India and China, but the political goal is something else. Yeah, it would be the it would be foolish of us to assess the economic recovery of our enemy by providing him access to our market. 100% agree with you. Is it possible that the government stance is just a show in background they are silently preparing? No, they're not. When the external affairs ministry of minister, my external affairs minister talks the way he's spoken, and if my finance minister has spoken the way she has spoken, I believe them. I believe them. And if I know what others are writing, the economists, because they don't have to fight. They'll not be around when China comes and sits in your inside your house and then forces you to open your vault. They'll all run away. Yeah. History likes to repeat itself for those who never learn anything from it. I agree with you completely. The Indian government should invest in Sahaj Marg also. No, yeah, we'll not talk of this. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, I don't see any other questions here really. It's people who provide power to China or India. I completely agree with you, and it's what we need to invest in. Right. Uh, yeah. Is our EM going to Pakistan? Yeah, he's going. It's not that important. I don't know whether SEO will be held with what's happening in Pakistan. That's the latest news. What are the threats from USA and can we weigh them against Chinese? No, we have no threat from USA. USA poses you no threat, and you can't put it against China. Sorry, I mean that's completely. I wouldn't say contra thinking also, but that doesn't have end point. Again, politically, where does it lead you? The whole story with China has to be dealt with political. But Arunachal, for a long time, or you're not come on live shows. I hope you're well, and and happy Navratras to all of you. Excellent summation. Thanks a lot. So, why can't we announce that Tibet is an independent country and fully support Tibetan independence and announce the intent to protect Tibet with military presence in Lhasa? You need to do a lot of political legwork for that, which we are not doing. And that's part of our response. What you said is part of your response, and I'm going to write about it. What you're saying, I agree with you. That's why I put it up. That you need to do this and project this and then put them on the back foot. We'll not talk of scramjet. These we'll talk of it later. Okay. Oh, will the good general give his opinion on possibility of window opportunity accruing due to Bangladesh broke Pakistan and our internal problems? Just wait. Tomorrow, day after, we're going to do uh, webinars on this as part of Chanakya Dialogues. Oh, I don't see any other question. Yeah, Brian. Can you elaborate what would China's end game be if they attack short territory gain, humiliate India? If it's a short, what can USA do? USA will do nothing. That's the thing. USA can't do anything. What did it do in Eastern Ladakh? It gave us some help, all right, but it didn't stop what happened. If China now humiliates us and gains even little territory, it's a humiliation which counts. Remember, it's not territory and all. It's a humiliation which counts. Only one tiger on a hill, and that tiger has to be China. That's the view. Unless you go in and do something else. Okay. I'm not saying it's going to be easy for China. It's going to be very difficult. It might end up losing. And that should be our aim. Our aim should be to make China lose. Because if China does something, it's an opportunity for us to do something. Are you ready for it? That the point is, are you ready for it? Okay, right. Okay, I think I have done with all questions. Uh, right. Rest is all conversation. At the end, I'd like to thank all of you for having attended this presentation. I've spoken my heart out, and this is my view. If you like this, please press the like button. I'm again repeating and request more of you to subscribe. Tomorrow, we're going to go into J&K. We're going to continue with this series of Chanakya Defense Dialogues, which will go on till the third week of October. So every day, almost every second day, there'll be a Chanakya Defense Dialogue based webinar or a discussion on issues of national importance. Please come and watch it. Spread the message. So I'll meet you tomorrow. And in fact, tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock, oh, no, not 6:30, 7 o'clock. At 7 o'clock, I'm going to have a discussion with General Dushyant Singh as to what this Chanakya dialogue is all about. You must be wondering, hey, hai kya cheez? So I'll get him for about 15-20 minutes. We'll explain to you what this Chanakya Defense Dialogues is and what it means. It's a new initiative which was started last year and it's expanding, and we'd like to get it to all of you. So I'll see you tomorrow in the evening at 7 o'clock. Till then, good evening and Jai Hind.